250,000 pages of records related to the surveillance of Martin Luther King Jr. are now public after a controversial move from the Trump administration.
The digital document dump has been under a court-imposed seal since 1977, when the FBI first gathered the records and turned them over to the National Archives and Records Administration.
Among the documents are leads the FBI received after King's assassination. There are also details of the CIA's fixation on King's pivot to international anti-war and anti-poverty movements in the years before he was killed.
And these documents have been released despite opposition from King's two living children. They say their father's killing has been a captivating public curiosity for decades. But the pair emphasized the personal nature of the matter and urged that the files, quote, be viewed within their full historical context.
So joining us now to talk about the release is Chief Legal Analyst Khalif Rhodes, who also mentioned this release is going to take years to get done. But Khalif, let's start here. Why do you believe the judge didn't respect the family's request? Because it's just a request. There's no legal mandate saying they have to abide by it, right?
100%. Originally, you're requesting these documents are sealed. Sealed for 2027 was the original time frame. The judge could have denied the government's request, could have respected the family's wishes. I mean, and typically a judge would lean on the family to being the closest person to the individual that was connected to these documents. And so it was an unfortunate step, I think, to something that I wasn't anticipating or expecting. Yes, I anticipated the request by the Trump administration because President Trump signed the executive order. So that's something I knew was down the road coming. But I knew they still had to go in front of a judge. And I know they still had to make a request. And you go back. Why did we seal these originally? We didn't want outrage. We didn't want, the pushback and blowback. Yeah, you want transparency, but do you want this to be released? And then the question, I guess, is why? I mean, you're talking about 6,000 documents. 230,000 pages. This is a lot of information that is being released, and it will take a long time to get out, to be fully vetted, to be fully reviewed, to ensure to see what was in there. But as the family is requesting, at least the two main family, his two children, not the niece the Department of Justice cited, saying that she was thankful that they released it, but Bernice and his son, MLK III, they both rejected this request and did not want this to occur. So I was confused on why the judge didn't honor that. Typically with something like this, the judge would say, you know what, the family doesn't want it. I want to take that while I'm weighing the balance in an attempt to try to honor the family's wishes.
What are we expected to learn from this? I mean, are we thinking like a smoking gun? Is there a link to some government wrongdoing? What are we expecting?
I mean, the link to the government wrongdoing is clearly on his face. I mean, I think that in Trump's attempt to be transparent and his attempt to drain the swamp and all the statements that he made when he was running, this would go hand in hand with the transparency aspect of it. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist at all, but I know that there are folks that are saying, look, that Trump is attempting to use this to take attention away from the other files that folks want to see, the Epstein files, and saying, well, here goes these files that you can look at. So that's probably a part of the process that's occurring, that, look, we want to get these out there and ensure that folks have an opportunity to see this while not asking and communicating about these other files.
And again, you mentioned this was something he ran on. He talked about the Epstein files. He talked about this, the Kennedy assassination, all of those things. Do you see any legal challenges coming out of what we learned from the documents? Because again, it's going to take some time. What might be in them? Are there any legal issues that could come up?
I mean, there are a number of legal issues, and none of them are good for the government. And well, that's why I would say part of me is happy that the Trump administration has decided to at least be transparent. But I just wish that it was a holistic transparency as opposed to this, cookie cutter approach. And I'll say this was the government looking, spying on, surveilling, following, intimidating an American citizen for no other fact, but he was attempting to help bring people together in a time when they were being, persecuted, hung during that time in the South. I mean, this is problematic on multiple levels. You're talking about following him overseas. And so if you know a little bit about history, what was happening with the Black Panthers after him, if you know about history, what was happening with Malcolm X during this exact same time, this is what the government was doing while at the same time saying, no, we're not doing these things. And so I think if it would have occurred and released during the time when it happened, then it would have been actually a cluster, an actual firebomb would have been thrown on top of an already tense moment. And so now, yeah, you can release it because it's 40 to 50 years after it occurred. But during the time when it was happening, this would have been used as gasoline to propel a movement that was looking for additional fire in his death.
Khalif, when we talk about transparency sometimes creates more trust in the government. But when you look at what the CIA was doing, and you kind of talked about it with Martin Luther King Jr., do you think that's going to create more questions as to what the government actually does in terms of spying on its own people?
100%. I mean, first of all, we have a Fourth Amendment right against legal search and seizure. And then so, yeah, you have an expectation of privacy in public place, in private places, and they were actually violating this man's constitutional rights while trying to attempt to say that it was under the gaze of some type of national security. So we can look at those things as they occur in the past, but we can also use this as a lesson for right now. While people are pointing to national security concerns while attempting to violate constitutional rights for folks here today.
All right, Khalif, thanks so much. Appreciate that. Number of topics we're going to talk with you coming up here next hour.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.